Juneann Lewis Show. We're here to inspire you to your next level.
Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to the Juneann Lewis Show. Listen, this is your host, Juneann Lewis, and you know I tell you all the time, I bring you educational, informative, and inspirational content. Listen, today I've got a guest, and this particular guest, I have her on the show, and you've noticed all of the week for this month I've had Latino or Afro-Latina on my show because this is Latino what? It is. And so for that particular reason, we are representing our Latinos. And look, today my guest is one of those people that has broken barriers, that allow little African and little Latino girls to enter into a specific world. My guest is Caribbean Pearl.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom. Thank you so much, Caribbean Pearl, for being on the show. Yes. Listen, when I tell you, 15 years ago, this young lady broke barriers. She did. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Caribbean Pearl.
Well, 15 years ago, I discovered, before they say that, my real name is Sandra Rosa, and I was a dancer performer, so I had this little background at ballroom and big competition, stuff like that. And I found, by an accident, I found involved in a pirate event festival.
A pirate events festival. Okay, good.
Yes, those more than not just like the Gasparilla thing, the people dress as a pirate. This is actually was educational because we dress as a pirate, but we represent the golden age of piracy. So it's educational. We reenactment those time period in through the performance and our clothes, teaching different style. Like right now, for example, I belong to the Scarlet Fortuna crew.
Well, I'm going to cut you for a minute because our goal today is to talk about you as the one opening up the door for the next guest that I have to introduce. And you started as a mermaid. And back in those days, you were the only one that looked like you.
Well, yes.
So, and when I say that, I mean Afro-Latina. Because they were Latin mermaids, but they weren't Afro-Latina mermaids. And we're saying Afro-Latina because that's the legal word that we're using now. That might change a little while from now, but as an Afro-Latina mermaid, she opened the door for the little African girls to say, hey, I see somebody that looked like me. And so that was something. Tell me a little bit more, but back in those days when you started, were you welcome? How did people treat you? How was that sort of thing for you?
Well, the reason I did the introduction on the pirate is because the pirate, I become a mermaid because
of the pirate. Yes, they go together. Okay.
And at that time, when
that is so true. Not to cut you, because so many pirates were rescued by mermaids. Yes.
Or the opposite way.
Or the opposite
allured by mermaids. So that was how I decided I want to be a mermaid. But yes, when I started 15 years ago, my adventure about mermaid. So the first thing was like how I can look like a real mermaid and not like a costume, kind of clown area. So my husband and I just started a little research. I started research, and that time when I started, yes, I didn't know anybody that was a mermaid, and especially a black mermaid.
Right.
So I started doing some research, and the time because first you have to create your persona, and that's when Caribbean Pearl come alive. And at that time, when the first thing I decided to do, obviously I had the name, was what I wanted to represent, and one thing very strong even in the pirate community, mermaid community was, well, I'm from Puerto Rico, and everything that he does has to have something from Puerto Rico. So that's where the name comes from. So Caribbean Pearl means in Spanish, La Perla del Caribe, and Puerto Rico is known as La Perla del Caribe or Caribbean Pearl. So my name represents where I come from, is Puerto Rico. And like so many people ask me, yes, it's black people in Puerto Rico. So we are mixed. We're a mixed Indian, black, and white. And the way you see right now here, 500 years later is what you get. So I did that. So that was the name how they come from. Then I started to look for the tail. So about the tail. And the 15-year-old was literally was only 4 people doing tail. 2 people in California, 1 here in Florida, and 1 in England.
Wow, 4 people doing mermaid tails.
Mermaid tail.
15 years ago. Because it was not something that was well
the
known.
boom or the trend.
Right, it was not the trend that it is today. Right, and you know, and I'm going to stop just for a minute to address this. The simple things we're talking about. But Caribbean Pearl, as much as she thought it was something simple, her coming out there changed the dynamics of what the mermaid world looked like. Because little girls saw her, and my next guest coming up is going to be that person, was inspired by her, it changed the dynamic. So even when you think you're doing something, my skin is literally growing as I say this.
Mine too.
Yes, even when you think you are doing something simple, you cannot even understand the impact that you're having on an entire society, in an entire world. Think about that. You stepping out to say to Caribbean Pearl, and because she's Afro-Latina, in this case, she stepped out and somebody else saw her and changed the dynamics of what 15 years of what the world looks like, probably even inspiring the Little Mermaid to come back. Who knows what you played in there. And look, I had the chance, I don't know if you guys saw me at some point, I had the chance to hang out with Caribbean Pearl at the Little Mermaid. I thought it was so fantastic. We had a beautiful time, just wiggling our tails and having a good time. Thank you so much for stepping out and doing that. Yes, yes, yes. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So then no details. So got the tail, started to event at the Pirate Festival because they opened the door for me.
Yes.
And so yes, you mentioned that, and I did it because when I started doing it, I just like to perform. I just like not just put a tail and say hello in the picture. I was performing, creating a character. You create a character and conversation with the little one.
Right.
And you say something that was what they really kind of click into the into the mermaid thing. So in one of my events is this little girl about 5 years old, was African American girl, and I remember that she had her hair up and everything, and mommy was like, "Oh my gosh, she likes mermaids," and tried to push it, and I can see that she was, that she was a little afraid.
Yeah, she was afraid.
And we have to understand, most of the kids are afraid to people that they don't know. I remember my mom told me, "Don't talk to strangers."
Strangers, yes, yes.
So I remember that, and I told mom, "Please let her go. She's gonna point that she's gonna come and say hello."
Yes.
And she started in the end.
She was edging up to you,
and she was closer to me. And one of the things that she said at that time was, the first thing that she said to me, I was like, "You look like me." And I was like, "Oh."
She said that to you. She said, "You look like me."
You look like me. And said,
yes.
Yeah, I was like, "Well, of course you look." And maybe one day you're gonna grow a tail and we're gonna be twins.
Yes.
And there are 10 things. She was like, you have a question for me, and she was coming like this, and I was like, "Did you know Ariel?" And I'm looking at her. Of course I know Ariel. She's one of my long lost cousins.
Yes.
And when you put your tail, you put your persona, and someone coming out and open the door, I was like, "A mermaid."
Yes.
It was really, I always see it until I say, I feel ghozy, and because I didn't think that I can create that. I didn't grow up with that. I didn't grow up with dolls. They look like me, and if it was a black doll, that I put my eye on it. My family like, "You cannot have that. That's bad. That's voodoo. That's." So I grew up like that.
So wait a minute. So when you grew up, if a black doll was considered a voodoo doll?
In Puerto Rico, yes.
In Puerto Rico?
Yes.
Interesting. Because most of them were very, very dark.
Yes.
And so it was considered a voodoo doll.
I never have a black doll.
So you never had a black doll growing up?
No.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. But just to see that you being a part of this world has helped to change that persona, because today, how many black dolls do we have? Dark dolls that we have. Yes.
We do.
Yes,
actually,
yes.
I get my first black doll in 2002, a gift from my husband.
Yeah. So a doll like this, you're saying, is a type of doll like this was not something that you would have?
No.
Oh, wow.
No one at all. And
yes, So thanks to you, if you don't mind me boring it, thanks to you, a doll like this is considered normal because it more looks like somebody and represents somebody. Yes.
Yeah, you have a redhead brother with twins.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this doll with us and sharing this with us, because definitely it's part of people like you that made a change in this world. Yes. Now.
So actually, something very important, like 15 years ago, I didn't know it was a mermaid community. I thought it was performance. And
yes.
So we do the whole wiki-washi stuff like that, but
performed there at Wiki-Washi?
No.
Okay.
I went to.
Oh, you went there to see. Okay.
How is this mermaid life? And because one thing is dress as a mermaid, and another one is swimming, and that was my first I can swim with I get it. I can
with
swim,
the tail.
With the tail,
right.
I can swim. So and break another barrier of my life. At that time, I don't know how to swim.
Yes.
Mermaid school wasn't.
There was no mermaid school. There was nothing for you to learn.
No was mermaid certification. Wasn't nothing like that. So and I want to say we is like other amazing Latinas mermaid. The way that you say someone, I opened the door for somebody. I saw these two ladies, and I was like.
And those ladies were?
That one her name is Medusa Sirena.
Medusa, so she opened the door for you as a Latina, as a Latina, to come into the mermaid world. Yes. And then you as an Afro-Latina opened it for Afro-Latinas to come in.
And it's totally unsurreal because you know, when people mention and say, oh, you're a role model in the mermaid, I never thought about that.
So now let me ask you a question. Was it niche back then? Did they welcome you? How did that work for you?
They welcomed me because I think more because the personality. So
your personality within itself.
Personality. I didn't let anybody put me down.
Right.
And when when I get something they feel or look like negative, I just turn around to something positive in that moment.
Yes.
Okay, so nobody's talking to me, so I'm gonna start dancing.
Yes.
If nobody's talking to me, I'll go to talk to the people.
Yes.
One of the things I did when I started as a mermaid was I always had my best friend, my camera.
Yes.
And I go to I was going to every table and take pictures and take group picture to everybody.
Yes.
So one, I can remember the people.
Yes.
And to have something to give back and you got to
Pearl, I want to interrupt you. Do you hear that key thing that she said? She went out even when there were not people that looked like her. No. And when they didn't, as a matter of fact, she walked in with a character knowing that she's who she is. It didn't matter who else was there. And that's for you guys to take. That's for somebody to teach their children. Mm-hmm. I don't care where you go in this world. There's always going to be somebody that you're not going to look like. There's always going to be people that you're not going to look like. But take the persona. It said, I am somebody too. And I just brought something else to add to the stew, as a friend of mine said. And she took that attitude. When they didn't speak, she went out and she started taking pictures of them. That certainly broke barriers. It broke the ice immediately. It broke the ice. All of a sudden, because people automatically think that you come judging them just as they're judging you.
Yes.
And you feel they're judging you. And so because they don't know each other, which is why every time I go to places, I don't care where I'm at, Juneann Lewis has just arrived. I shake everybody's hand and I act as if I was there and I was your friend and I knew you from before. And what that does immediately is that it takes down those barriers that people might have about you and your people that look like you, what they feel that you're coming in with. No, you're not bringing that energy.
And that's something very, to all the little ones up there, that is very important. Call myself the first mermaid, the black mermaid in the community, but definitely I was the first black one in the East Coast and the first
this side in Florida area
and all the East Coast from New York to South Florida, because those are places that went.
Yes.
But then I did realize that I was the only Afro-Latina mermaid. Wow. First, as a being granted, but now I know after 15 years how that means to other people.
Let me check on my producer's weight loss progress. Okay, so she's in the gym getting it on, pumping that iron. That's good. Listen, we've got some good news. Guess what? Do you see how she looks? She has lost 10 pounds. Congratulations to you, Miss Carolyn.
Slow, yes. Well, Pearl, it was truly a fascinating conversation to have with you. I have to have Pearl back on the show because Pearl brings such a spice And I'm going to show you some things that I've seen with Pearl. As you know, this show is an interactive show. We bring reality, so I'll show you the reality part with Pearl.
Want to say I'm very proud of this Puerto Rican Afro-Latina, Miss Caribbean Pearl. She has broken grounds and made ways for many little Afro-Latina, Latino, and Black little girls to be able to say, I can be a mermaid too. Congratulations to you, Caribbean Pearl. Keep doing what you're doing. Be blessed.
Don't believe everything that you see.
It's true. Wasn't that wonderful? Yes.
Yay.
She is such a character, but she's part of being a part of this world and helping to change this world for a better place. Pearl, tell the people how they can get a hold of you, because Pearl does shows, she does parties, she does all of those things as well.
Well, as most of my events are as a mermaid in the pirate community, so you can reach Treasure Coast Pirate. They are kind of my representation for.
So you said Treasure Coast
Treasure Coast Pirate.
Okay.
They you can go talk to Kathy, and Kathy, you say, oh, I need Caribbean Pearl, and Kathy will deal the whole.
So you have a booking agent.
Yes.
And so her booking agents will be able to.
For pirates, for mermaid at pirates event. So you can always reach me on my Facebook page at the Caribbean Pearl, or the Instagram. The Instagram actually had the more easy way, because all the information is
right.
Is
that the Caribbean Pearl there as well?
The Caribbean Pearl.
The Caribbean Pearl on Instagram and on Facebook. Well, Pearl, but I'm telling you, I have to have you back on the show. It was nice spending time with you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. Be yourself, be you, but be kind.
So our show will continue next week with Mer People. Carry Water will be part 2 of next week's show. Please make sure you're watching that one. If you have seen the Mer People on the Netflix series, Carrie is one of the characters on Mer People on Netflix. Listen, you've got to be there for that show. She's the first Black woman to create an Afro mermaid pod. She's going to do it. Be there next week on the Juneann Lewis Show to see Carrie Water.
I want to say thank you so much for being on the show and watching. And listen, if you guys have ideas and you know other mermaids or anything like that, or anybody that's doing something spectacular, please do contact me. I'll be happy to have them on the show. You guys remember, I always say living wealthy always is a mindset. And you're the only person that determines who you're going to be. Don't let anybody else tell you who you are. Yes. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.